At 9:17 a.m. on January 22nd, 1943, Second Lieutenant John George crouched in the shattered remains of a Japanese bunker west of Point Cruz, Guadalcanal. His eyes scanned a massive banyan tree 240 yards away, every nerve alert, every breath controlled. For 6 weeks, his fellow officers had laughed at the scope he had mounted on his personal Winchester Model 70. Now, in the humid, tangled jungle, the rifle was the difference between life and death. George, 27 years old, Illinois State shooting champion, had 0 confirmed kills. The Japanese snipers in Point Cruz Groves had already killed 14 men from his battalion in just 3 days. And he was about to prove why his mail-order rifle was no toy. His commanding officer had scoffed when George unpacked the Winchester back in Tennessee. The armorer asked, "Deer or Germans?" George had answered Japanese. That rifle, paid for with 2 years of National Guard savings, weighed 9 pounds, with the scope adding another 12 ounces. The standard issue Garand, heavy and semi-automatic, felt inadequate to him. He carried the Winchester anyway. The Guadalcanal had been a brutal proving ground. Marines had held Henderson Field, but the Japanese had not been cleared from the coastal groves or Mount Austin. George's battalion had attacked the western slope for 16 days, losing 34 men killed and 279 wounded. And he hadn't fired a shot in combat yet. Now, the jungle was different. No bunkers, no clear lines of sight. Only massive banyans and Japanese soldiers hidden among the branches, trained to wait and strike with deadly patience. On January 19th, a sniper had killed Corporal Davis while he filled water. On the 20th, 2 men from L Company were cut down during a patrol. On the 21st, 3 more fell, 1 shot through the neck from a tree they had passed twice. George was summoned. His commander needed someone who could shoot, someone who could end the sniper threat. George outlined his credentials: Illinois State Championship. Dawn broke over the damp jungle like a weak flame struggling to survive. The air smelled of wet soil, rotting leaves, and gunpowder that refused to disappear. Lieutenant Hale wiped the mist off his scope with slow, deliberate motions. The memories of the previous day, 11 snipers eliminated with only 12 shots, still swirled in his head, but there was no time to think about glory. The forest wasn't done with him. The Japanese snipers in the Point Cruz Groves had been ghosts, precise, patient, untraceable. Yesterday he had silenced them, but every soldier knew the same truth. The jungle always held more secrets than the men walking through it. Hale took position inside a half-collapsed bunker. Water dripped from cracks above, collecting into muddy pools around his boots. His rifle, the customized bolt action he had carried across continents, rested on a sandbag. He had polished it all night. Inside this hellish place, his rifle was the one thing that felt alive. For 2 hours, the jungle didn't breathe. No insects, no wind, no sound. That silence was never good news. At 9:06 a.m., Hale saw it. A faint shimmer on a branch across the grove. Not movement, not color, a shimmer. Something reflecting only for half a heartbeat. He shifted his cheek slightly against the stock, exhaled half his breath, and waited. The shimmer returned, this time lower. "Their pattern has changed," he whispered. Snipers always repeated their angles. Always. Except today. He clicked his elevation knob, measuring distance mentally from the height of the tree against the horizon. 267 yards, high branch, 30-degree angle. He didn't shoot. Not yet. Something about the angle felt off. Then he saw it. A shadow under the branch, not above it. A decoy. The real sniper was lower, hidden between 2 thick vines, using the decoy's reflection to bait a shot. A trap designed for men less patient than Hale. He waited. He let the sweat drip from his forehead into his eyes. He let. By the early hours of January 27th, a dense fog had settled over the Point Cruz Groves. The jungle seemed to be holding its breath, the mist curling around tree trunks like ghostly fingers. George moved cautiously, his senses sharpened to a razor edge. Each footstep could betray his position. Each snap of a twig could invite death. He consulted his map one last time before stepping onto the ridge that overlooked a deep ravine, a natural choke point where the enemy often moved supplies and patrols. His spotter, Private Larson, followed silently. The young soldier's eyes were wide with a mixture of awe and fear. "Sir, it's quiet," he whispered, barely audible. "Quiet is dangerous," George replied, his voice low and steady. "The enemy uses silence like a trap. Watch, listen, anticipate. Move only when I say." The first signs of movement appeared at 6:32, a faint ripple across the fog, shadows shifting unnaturally among the roots of banyan trees. George raised his Winchester, scanning through the scope. A small patrol of 3 Japanese infantrymen emerged, unaware of the sniper duo watching them from above. One carried a radio, the other's rifles at the ready, moving methodically down the narrow trail. George calculated distances, wind, and the trajectory with precise efficiency. "Take the first one down quietly," he instructed. Larson's hands trembled as he aimed, but George guided him with patience. The first shot was fired, soft, controlled, and deadly. The patrol barely had time to react before the second and third targets fell in rapid succession. The jungle swallowed the sound. The fog masked the commotion. For the next hour, the duo moved stealthily along the ridgeline, neutralizing isolated squads and ambush points. George's experience was unmatched. He could anticipate enemy patterns before they even formed. He noticed subtle changes, the way leaves rustled, birds abruptly took flight, or how distant artillery fire created echoes that could mask movement. By the morning of January 28th, the Point Cruz groves were tense with anticipation. George had spent the previous night reviewing enemy patterns, plotting routes, and preparing traps. He knew the Japanese would retaliate after the repeated sniper losses and destroyed communications. Today's mission was not just survival, it was decisive. The sun rose slowly, piercing through the mist in scattered rays. George, paired with Larson, advanced along a ridge that overlooked the main valley. Smoke still curled from previous skirmishes, mingling with the fog. The valley below showed movement. Enemy patrols, supply convoys, and what appeared to be a squad of elite snipers. The battle was about to reach its climax. George signaled Larson to stay low and silent. "We hit the snipers first," he whispered. "Remove them, and the rest will be disoriented. Remember, speed and precision, not noise." At 7:15, they spotted the first sniper hiding behind a fallen log. George raised his Winchester, adjusting for wind and distance. A single, silent shot, and the target fell without a sound. Larson followed George's cues, taking out the next sniper with controlled calm. The jungle echoed with tension. Any mistake now could be fatal. By 8 o'clock, George and Larson had neutralized 4 sniper positions. But the elite squad below had noticed the missing snipers and began a coordinated search. George realized that they would likely try a pincer movement. He quickly scanned the valley, identifying a rocky ridge to the east as the perfect vantage point. They moved carefully, using fallen trees and undergrowth for cover, like shadows blending into the jungle. At 9:23, the enemy detected movement. A rifle shot pierced the air, followed by a volley of return fire. George and Larson dove for cover behind a large boulder. Bullets whizzed overhead. The enemy was closing in fast. George assessed the situation. They were outnumbered, but terrain and training could turn the tide. He quickly set traps,